Okay, hi everyone. This video is about making a lamp like the one shown in the image here. So let's get started. So the first thing that we want to do, if we are new, is to download Blender 4 or 4.1 or whatever the latest version is. And we're going to see here that if you go to the main page, blender.org, it'll have you download and that'll sort you out. Okay, so it's a really good open source piece of software. It's relatively complex, has lots of features, so it's really good to use. And yeah, it's an amazing project. So let's get into it. And we're just going to open Blender. Okay, now you'll probably get start screen the first time. You don't need to worry too much. Just click away and onto this object anywhere, and you'll be greeted by this sort of scene. I'm using a mouse, so I can scroll around using my scroll wheel on the mouse. If you haven't got a mouse, you can use, see up here, there's this like three-dimensional gimbal, and this we can just click on it and it lets us sort of move around. Also lets us click on the colored dots and it moves into particular directions. It's also got up here, it's got a grabber hand. So if I just hold that down and move, it'll like move around. And if I click on the magnifying glass, I just keep holding my button down after I've clicked on it, lets me move in and out. Okay, so but I really like just using the using my mouse for this. I find it's the way to go. So I'm going to delete those two objects. This one is a light, this one is a camera. So I'm just going to draw around those, create like a box. Anything inside that box gets selected, and I'm just going to hit my X key. The X key is the delete key in Blender. Do that, delete, good one. Okay, so that's gone. So let's make a start. Right, well, first thing actually is we'll get rid of this box as well. So we'll go delete the cube, pretty standard. And for this, we're going to make a toroidal lamp. So it's going to have an inside and an outside wall, and it's going to like, yeah, those two walls are going to be connected as well. So in order to do that, we are going to come up to object and, sorry, yep, we're in object. We're going to go add a mesh. Sorry, I was getting a bit confused there for a sec. And we're going to come down and select the torus. Good. Okay, so the torus, that is looking pretty good. With this torus, if you wanted to adjust it at all, there's a little tab down here. You can click on it and you can change how many segments, how many segments in the ring, how large it is, etc. Okay, but we're just going to leave that pretty much standard just for the moment. Okay, so I can have a look at that. It's going to start to form the basis of our lamp, but we want to make it taller. So what we will do is we're going to go from object mode into edit mode. So this lets us see, now we can see all the mesh of our object, and it's the mesh that we're going to be working with. So we want to select all the vertices, which are these points where these lines intersect, and then we've got faces, the like tiles in between that make things solid. We want to select everything above the midline, and a good way to do that is we'll select either the Y or the X, it doesn't matter, and that'll get us looking directly side on to our object. We also want to make things like see-through, so we can see through to the other side to select it as well. So we can come up here to wireframe, which is this one here, and now we can see through it. So if we click off anywhere, that will deselect, and I can just like do a box select, which is nice and easy. I can drag out this box just holding down my left finger on my left button there, and I've got it. Okay, so that is now selected the top of our sphere here, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go G, Z, and I'm going to bring it straight up that. And let's set the height of our lamp, maybe something like about that. And now we are done. Okay, so we've got our lamp coming together. That's good. And you can see we've got an inside and we've got an outside. That is nice and easy. So what we want to do is actually divide this mesh up a bit more on the inside and the outside. So in order to do that, what we can do is use the loop cut tool. I might go back to solid mode just for a sec. So over here, we've got this loop cut. Make sure we're in edit mode at the top here. So I'll select the loop cut, and the loop cut will just like go around the middle. So I'll click once, and that lets me just apply the loop cut. I'll click here, and if you want to, you can keep dividing this. You can slide them up and down as well. And then what I might do is I'm going to have a look at the inside. I'm going to apply some on the inside, just like that. Right, okay, so that's going to give me what I'm after, which is plenty of geometry that we can have all those like organic looking loops working on. So what we want to do now is you can see this object's looking a bit too smooth. So it would look too mechanical if we didn't do some more work to it. So what we're going to do is we'll come over here and I'm going to add a modifier. I won't add into object mode, but it doesn't really matter. You can stay in that. And I'm going to add a displace modifier. Here we are, displace. Okay. So displace takes the mesh and it kind of like, it moves it around. So let's hit displace and it kind of like explodes it up a little bit in size. I think that's because of this mid-level command. And at the moment, what we need is some kind of texture to drive this displacement. So what we're going to do is we'll just click new. We've got a new texture. That's good. And then we come down to the texture panel down the bottom here in red. This is where we define what this is going to be. At the moment, it's set as an image or a movie. We want some kind of random roughness. So we're going to select this Voronoi, which comes out something like that. We can see it's looking pretty rough now. We'll go back to our spanner here with our modifiers, and we can start to change the strength of this. So we just want to get it so, it's a bit wrinkly, and you can choose how wrinkly that you want it to be. I'm probably going to go like 3, maybe a 4 or 5, somewhere around there. Okay. So that is looking good. So that is our cylinder for the moment. But we can see that even though it's gone wrinkly, it's still like very much got these kind of squares, and we want to break it up so it's going to create some more organic shapes. And in order to do that, we need to add a plugin, and that's really easy to do in Blender. But one thing that we should do here, come up to File, and we should save our work. So we'll go Save As, saved at the desktop, and we'll call it I'll call it New Land. Okay, so untitled is bad, so we don't want to call anything untitled. Let's give it a name, and then we can relax. 3D, a bit prone to crashing. It's not the software's fault. It's just that you can really wind out all the presets and numbers, go totally crazy, and create something that'll crash your computer. So we've got this happening. All these windows up here, we can reconfigure them however we want. So I'm going to change this to I want the preferences, which is right over here at the bottom. That's good. And yours will probably come in on interface, but I'm going to click on add-ons, which is about halfway down here. And I'm going to look for this add-on called Tissue, which creates all these crazy organic shapes. And then you just check that on, okay? If you haven't got that checked on, which I doubt you will, if it's the first run, you just check that on and you've got it going. And if you want to find more out about any plugin, you can click on documentation. It will take you through. But we've got that already. So all I've got to do, go back to the 3D viewport now, have a look around, we're looking good, and there's a little button you can use there to pull out the tissue plugin, or you can hit the M key, which that's what I tend to do, and that'll bring out that that tab, and we can click on tissue. Okay, the one that we want to use once we've got this selected is we want to use the dual mesh. That works really nicely. I haven't really played around with that much. I just go, okay, that's good. And it's going to create our dual mesh. So there's actually two objects here overlaid over the top of one another. So I'm going to come up here to see, this is my move tool, this cross here. I'm just going to drag these away, and you'll see that now I've got two different objects. I've got my original, and now I've got this new one. So this one I can hit delete and get rid of that. And now I've got this new one here that is looking a bit more interesting. Okay, that's good. So we can see now it's built up of these this like sort of tessellated hexagonal shape. And it's the same on the inside. So if you need to get rid of anything in Blender, I forgot to say, X is the delete key. Hit X, you're good. Okay, so we're going to add some modifiers to this now. So I'm going to add a modifier. For starters, I'm going to add a wireframe modifier. So it's under this generate tab. We'll come down here and start to apply it. Now, you can't really see the wireframe until you go out up the top here to object mode. So a lot of these are like it. So now we can see we've got our wireframe. It's looking good. Okay, and we can change the thickness of our wireframe in here, so we can have it like, you know, really thin or thick. Up to you how you want it to look. That is good, but it's not looking that sort of organic yet. So the next thing that we might do is we're going to go add another modifier, and we're going to add this subdivision surface. So it's under generate again. Whoops, generate subdivision surface. Okay, so we'll click on this one and it comes up. And if we zoom in now, you'll see that it's starting to create this kind of like organic set of links. And we can change how smooth that is by going up and down. So I wouldn't go any higher than 2 on this job, otherwise it'll get too complex and it'll be too slow. So we can see now it's looking good. We can actually start to adjust this a bit further if you want to. There is a tool called Decimate, but I found that it's not working particularly well at the moment. But let's have a look here. Where does it live? Decimate. Okay. We'll see if we can get it to work. Go up a little bit. So I should like cut down the amount of, it's running a bit slow, should cut down the amount of shapes that we've got in our object. We can also move these around a bit in the stack. So let's try moving this to first. Now that's starting to work, okay? So now that I've got it up the top there, I can sort of dial this in with how much complexity I want. So you can see here that as I turn down this decimate or turn it up, it runs a little slow, but it'll kind of start to just change the look of your object. So if you, I'll go 0.5 decimation, okay, and now it's just kind of opened the mesh up a bit, so it's just a bit more interesting, and it's a little bit, you know, more random looking as well. So that's what the decimator is good for. Right, okay, so that is the basics of setting up the lamp, and it's pretty much done now. So I'm happy with how it's looking. There's a few other things I've got to do. So within Blender at the moment, this lamp, let's just do a save. So I'll go File, Save. That's good. And now what I'll do is I'll go Save As and New Lamp. And then I'll call it to say New Lamp 2. Save As, because what I'm about to do is I'm going to apply all these things here in our stack to give us like a mesh that the printer can use. So what I'm going to do is I'll start at this top one, make sure I'm in object mode. I'm going to go apply. So you have to go top to bottom on this, apply. And now what it's done is it looks the same, but those, it's not using those at all. Now it doesn't look too complicated. If we zoom in and have a look, it's got plenty of vertexes, so it looks nice and smooth, but it's not too crazy. Okay, perfect. So that is ready to export at the moment. So all we have to do to export it is, first thing, we're going to zoom out and I'm going to scale it up like a lot bigger. That's more like it, okay? Then it'll appear better in our printer when we need to scale it up. So what I'll do is go File, Export, STL. STL is a pretty standard kind of file as far as 3D printing goes. I'm going to export new lamp 2.stl, which was the last one that I saved. And I don't really need to touch any of this. I'll just go export STL. And that's good, okay? So that's going to now, you'll be able to import it into the printer. We'll need to set up supports just for the base of the object. There's a few tricks to doing that, but basically it's all ready to go. It's not going to need support. And then, yeah, that's all there is to it. So I hope you've enjoyed that tutorial and got something out of it. I've done a couple of different versions of this, but this has probably got the best methodology for getting it going. So see how you go. It's a fun project.